Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Tennant Nicholson. I am the Chief Creative Officer at Wasabi Publicity and also the co-founder of PitchRate.com. And this is our free Friday PR coaching calls that we've been doing during the pandemic. If you would like a free PR workbook like this one, just go to PitchRate.com and download it. There's no opt-in, there's no cost. Of course, you can always purchase it on Amazon too. Some people love to do that. However, during the pandemic, we're actually giving it away for free. And then we're doing these Friday calls so that people can ask questions about the workbook or just ask questions about PR in general. So welcome, everybody. So we are, if you look in the chat, Hannah, my assistant, is going to put some pertinent links for you. If you're looking for past calls, future registration links, or just information in general, or just a summary of what I just said, go to storytellertothemedia.com. That will take you right to my blog. And then the blog entries through the year will give you different links to the YouTube channel and to the different registration links for these calls or what we've been talking about. Let's see, what other order of business? We have what we do in the call is we do a short lesson and then we do a breakout and we come back and we share about that. Recently, people have been really loving when I coach somebody live. So one of the reasons why you want to actually do a live call instead of a recorded call is because I actually can coach you live. So we've got people here today. So why don't everybody in the chat plug yourself. It's a safe place to plug yourself. That's what we're talking about. And then also any type of PR question that you have for today. And then I'll actually choose one of those and then coach you. So yeah, it is Friday the 13th, y'all. And I started about I'd like to get on like a minute or two early, and I'd like barely made it on time today. And I'll tell you why, because I had a brilliant idea and I wanted to send it out to all my friends contacts. So I was literally like putting all my stuff. I was writing something to Dr. Oz, and because they had replied to one of my pitches, and they were, she's a producer that I pitch quite frequently. But anyway, I started to say, listen, don't forget we have these other clients, okay? Because she was responding to a pitch that I had sent out yesterday. And it was about communication, family stuff, all that kind of thing. And she's like, oh, I really like this. I'll think about it, for the next time that we're in a production meeting. And I said, oh, and also think about these. And then as I got them all together, I just popped off literally 13 people. And I was like, what a great idea for a pitch. Years ago, I did the 12, what's that song, the 12 Days of Christmas? So I did the 12 pitches of Christmas or something like that. And the producers loved it because it gave them like a little smorgasbord of ideas. So today I did 13 pitches from publicist Michelle Tennant on Friday the 13th. And I just sent it out to all my people. Okay, so the other publicists on the group, if you want to borrow that idea, I'm sure they won't notice that both of us are pitching that, but isn't that cute? So anyway, that's one reason why I was a little delayed. So that's your first tip for the day. Okay, so we've got, yeah, we'll see. So far the talk show people, I'm hoping you guys that the fact that the election is over, well, depending on who you ask, but let's just say it's over, okay? What that means is it's going to free up this news cycle. And the news cycle has not been freed up for about 4 years. So it is, word to the wise, it is now time to get your pitches in for 2021. Especially if you're on well-being topics or things that are traditionally considered evergreen and not hard news. It is now I'm like so excited because I've been doing this for 31 years and I have never seen such a dense political news cycle as we've had in the past 4 years. And all of our, I've been able to pitch with our team, our mind, body, spirit, well-being, doctor, health, thank goodness. but there's much more opportunity when it's not so saturated with the political. I see Katie just like nodding her head. So Katie, I'm just gonna, before I even read the chat, I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself, and I want to hear what's going on in your head that you're like, yes. Well, I want to hear from you.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's even like I get the muck rack updates and the skim and things like that, and it's like that's all publicists and people in PR have been talking about. It's so hard to get your message out there when all the media wants to do is talk about the last thing that was stupid that Trump did. And I'm not saying that I'm for Trump or against Trump, but I'm just saying he just provided so much fodder, and it was such the topic that it was really hard to get any other stories out there because of that.
Yeah. And Katie, you're an information officer like I am, right? You do similar stuff to what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, similar. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just want to encourage those of you who are seeing this recording later, or you're not, like, this is a safe place just to powwow, because like it's sometimes just great to talk to other publicists like Katie and myself, just to say, oh my gosh, or news people. Like we've got Mitch on the phone, Marjorie. There's all kinds of different people who are interested in marketing, interested in just having a powwow during the pandemic. So Katie, I'm going to go ahead and pull yours out. Your comment says she's been called extraordinarily helpful. Oh, you're pitching yourself. Yes. Okay. I read yours in the last time and I was like, oh, I wish I had asked her to do that live. So why don't you just do, I'm not even going to read it.
Okay.
Why don't you just pitch yourself? Because I love hearing other publicists pitch themselves too.
Okay. Well, I went with yours as my guide to try and get some ideas.
Oh, good.
Those are the best creative things to do, right? Steal from other people.
Yes.
So I am a communications consultant, Katie Bratland Communications, and I've been called extremely helpful by the producers and the journalists, podcasters that I've worked with. Really what I try and do is just get my stories, my client stories across in a way that makes sense and is relatable to the organ or the group that I'm pitching to.
Yeah. And you specialize in
really,
sports.
Pardon me?
Don't you specialize in sports?
Yeah, that's the main thing I do. But yeah, and I do schools and whatever, a lot of other stuff too. But right now, my main project I'm working on is in sports. So yeah, so I had at the end there that I'm always relentless when it comes to promoting my clients, whether they're professional athletes, interior decorators, or schools. My insatiable curiosity and willingness to tackle any project will help my clients. It sometimes throws me into overdrive, but I'm always looking for ways to deliver the win.
Oh, I like, yeah, because sometimes people just have to figure out, like, because I lead with personal development clients, right? But of course, we do lots more.
Yeah.
But you could have like a whole thing, like a football, like, over the goal line. You can have fun with those images or thing,
Yeah, so I'm still working on it, but yeah, that's kind of where it is right now.
Yeah. And I would, sometimes the thing about publicists is that it's really hard for marketing professional, like for us to distinguish what we do.
Yeah.
People still have like a hard thing, they hear publicists, they hear publishing.
Yeah.
And so then I go,
yeah, or even I'm more, I would say more corporate communication, so a little bit more of a generalist. And so that's part of what I do. And even that, you say corporate communications and people are like, what does that mean? You talk to people in your organization and it's like, well, there's a lot of different things that fall under that. There's media relations, there's executive communications, there's so many different things. So yeah, it does come down to really giving concrete examples of what you do so that people at least kind of have some concept, and then you can get into the conversation if it's something that they want to find out more about.
Katie Bratland, helping you win at your communication goals inside and outside.
Love it.
That's what, go ahead. There you go. You guys, I just did an acronym for another client, and this is going to be the basis of her new book. I think that there's some of us, like, I just, when I'm listening to somebody, that's what the other thing, I just get really jazzed up about you all, right? Like, because I start to get kind of, and it's the same with our clients. And I see a client couple of them on the call today too. So we're going to use them as an example. But let's go ahead and Hannah, why don't you just randomly choose the question, and I won't even look until later. You just randomly choose the question I'm going to deal with right now. And then let's talk to that person. Let's just have it be completely fresh. She's like, oh, I got to read them first. I put her on the spot. Okay.
Yeah, you did. Well, most people are introducing themselves. I'm looking for a question. Who has a question?
Oh, I have so Mitch has got just a lot of jokes. So
Yeah.
okay, let's let Mitch. Thanks, Katie. Mitch. So we've just heard from a publicist like me. Let's also hear from a journalist. That's Mitch. Hey, Mitch. I can't hear you.
Hello, I'm not really a journalist. I'm more a travel expert. I keep a
Look, when
journal when I
no,
travel.
no. Hold on. When you host radio like you've done,
Yes.
in my world, you're press.
I have just started another podcast. I've
Yeah.
had my first two interviews. I'm calling it the Worldwide Travel Cast. I have two presidents of cruise lines on the first two. I'm inviting many others. They're all excited, and I'm focusing on their personal experiences when they've traveled with themselves or their family to get people excited. The sizzle, not the steak. And I said, we don't mention price, we don't mention details, we just get excited about storytelling. And they're all
Mm,
jazzed because nobody asks them about
yeah.
that. And so I give them a couple of questions that, sort of at 5,000 feet to think about, but I always ask the question differently when they're live. And it's being well received. I've got a technical person who's going to help me launch it through all the podcast sites, and I'm hoping that launches next week. So I
Mitch,
guess I
that's
am a journalist.
wonderful. See why this is what, but you are when you identify yourself as a host of any kind, whether it's podcast, former radio, travel expert, um, you you actually for those of us who are information officers, right? And you are an information officer inside your travel business. However, when we look at your podcast and your past radio experience, you're press. You're a member of the press, right? And
Nice.
so a lot of people just treat press differently. Now, I know that like in the past couple of years, it's not always been kind, but in general, press are given privileges in pitches, right? So that we want to leverage that. So anytime I have a client who does have press experience, we tell press that they're your people,
Oh, nice.
right? So they see you in a different way because they know that you're producing content like they are. So it's a different type of credential. So,
Right.
Mitch, I wanted to share with you because you've been so great in the past few weeks about sharing about your travel journey, and your jokes are always hilarious. If you all aren't reading his jokes in the chat, you should. Thank you for that. I want you to know my mother is obsessed. My 84-year-old mom. We've talked about this before, and I can't stop thinking about you when she's so addicted to her phone. If you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, please go see it. That's what's happening to my 84-year-old mother right now. But hers is YouTube, not Facebook, right? So then it like feeds her. Rick Steves, right? And she's German, so it's usually like, you'll know that Steve Rick. I love him. Like she doesn't even get his name right or whatever. But YouTube keeps feeding these really old travel segments, and then she'll, whatever she did, she's last night after dinner, I was in New Zealand, right? So she's like in Norway. She's like been doing the fjords, and so she hooked me into watching a few in the living room, and I was transfixed. This content is so old, but it was is for those of us in the pandemic needing a getaway. It's
It
so
is old, but
needed.
think about how old the cathedrals and the towns are in Europe. So
Yeah.
if it's 5 or 10 years old, it's still usable information.
Yeah.
You know, people are still dreaming to go to, you know, unfortunately, Chartres Cathedral, I mean, Notre Dame, you know, was burned, but going there to the center of Paris, it's still fantastic. Going to Chartres Cathedral, south of Paris, and walking through the maze, it's all wonderful. And people have a dream to get the heck out of the house, out of the pandemic. And I'm really anticipating a flood of interest once people feel safe again.
Yes. Oh, and I've got one more for you.
Oh,
Okay. Because I thought there, so it's not like I obsessively think about Mitch, you all, okay? But it just so happened that my mom is onto this, okay? And I had a publicist who previously worked for us. She still does some small projects here and there. Her name is Sarah Snyder. And Sarah she just took one of those cheap, you know, you can now, because you're working from home, most of us, you can work from home from anywhere, right? So I think now I'm brain farting on the location where she is. Oh, it was Aruba.
hotels are offering long-term
Yeah,
rates that are almost like apartments if you're willing to do a 2 or 3 or 4 month stay.
yeah.
And they give you free internet. So essentially, you can work from anywhere, but you're outside of the country. And so I have people in Dominican Republic, people in Aruba. They are all, you know, if they have the resources and they got the flexibility, they are going and reporting from out of the US. And even cruise ships, if you take 3 or 4 back-to-back expeditions, they will essentially give you an apartment rate rather than a leisure rate. And there you go. So
Why not?
everybody's trying.
Yeah, the thing is that for your new podcast, you could interview some of those travelers just to
I
get
would
people
love
like,
it.
well,
Yeah.
what are you, you know, and then actually do these like mini excursions like we had talked about before.
Right.
So awesome. Thanks, Mitch. I wanted to make sure that you
Thank
got those
you.
two things. All
Thank you,
right.
Michelle.
So we do have a question. Okay. Um, awesome, Diane. I'm reading your thing. Okay. The best way to market my newest cable TV show, Finding Easy Walks Wherever You Are. Okay. Marjorie, we've talked about that before. We're going to talk about that again. Okay. And then Rita says, I've taken on responsibility for handling publicity for the Cumberland County Master Gardeners Association. Flower living thing. Any recommendations for going beyond the tired norm of reaching out to? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to come back to Diane and let's go ahead and let's talk to Rita. Rita. Okay. Hey, Rita.
Hello.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should just write about that, because before the call too, I was sending a placement to here, I'm in the Smoky Mountains. I'm outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and we have a property called Olivet, and it's a collection of homes. You can go to Olivet. Can you find their website, Hannah? olivetnc.com, I think by memory is what it is. I usually do our website. Or excuse me, here's what I usually use. She'll get the actual, and you can go to that, and the bottom is, it's olivetnc.com. So they are, but one of the things that we just did is they have, most people say farm to table. They literally have a community where they garden together, and then they collect the goods and they eat together, right? And it's like a very high end community. So it's called agrihood, the whole thing. My recommendation and I'm familiar with Cumberland County, by the way, as a kayaker and someone who loves that area. I would really focus in on of course, you've got the local, anybody within driving distance would be interested, but it's interesting to go to some of the national or the other places focusing in on gardening. And you've got plenty of time because it's April. So why not go to places like this? So tell me a little bit about the things that you're planning to do right now, Rita.
Okay, what we've got scheduled is we always have several speakers on different topics.
Mhm.
There's a local fellow that everybody loves, and his talks are always crowded. Don Hazel talks about, you know, bluebirds and snakes and, gosh, anything garden related or wildlife related. Folks just flock to him. This year we're doing, we were going to do it last year, but we got canceled. Big surprise. We're going to be doing, for the first time, we're incorporating lawns into the Flower and Garden Show, and we're doing lawnmower time trials.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, what's trending right now, actually, because of the pandemic, is anything home related, like to do things
Yes.
at home. So my recommendation for short lead is what to do with your lawns during the winter, right? Like, should I be
Okay.
letting seeds on there and then have your speaker or whatever, and then in the credits or whatever you promote, you know, you can't really, in most news segments, you don't want to overly promote, it's distasteful, but you can definitely give a free giveaway, you know, like, hey, I've got the 5 things to make sure that you do for the winter time, and give it to the media venue. So if TV's interviewing you, then give them, you know, so that they can say on our website are, you know, the dozen things to do for the winter before Christmas or something, right? Or the new year.
Okay.
And then the next year, you know, in 2021, because I would hit the magazines in January, because by April, you know, if you give a 3 to 4 month lead, you're going to hit most of those really glossy, fancy regional magazines. In North Carolina, it's like Our State, Capital Play. You know, every state has something different, right?
Right. I know there's gardening magazines. There's
Garden
Tennessee Gardener. Every state.
Yes, and Rita,
Every
there's
state
one
has a gardening magazine.
So I just put in the chat for you the placement that we just got for Hannah. Will you release the screen so I can share it for people? I don't know if you can do that for me. If you can just down at the share screen. Oh, I got it. There you go. So here it is. So this is the placement I just sent to Rita. We just got this for Olivet. So the pitch, I'll go back and I'll show you the pitch. Okay, this was Garden Destinations, the online source for garden travel. You should definitely hit these people up, right? They love the pictures, right? These were pictures that we gave to them. And then they're actually just talking about Agrihood. And then they go on to other areas, right? Rancho Mission, Vallejo in California, Denver, Illinois. And then the reason why they're so loving is because we gave them these photos. That's the main reason why we got such a big mention. I guarantee you. Okay. Now,
Great.
Let me go back and actually share with you. Well, you know what? I can show you all this. Doesn't matter. So this is our online press kits. I don't often share and this is what makes Wasabi Publicity different, is our technology. So we do an online press kit for our clients. And by the way, if you're an information officer, publicist, marketing professional, you can always we can help you do your own press kit like this. Okay. So just ask Hannah at wasabipublicity.com for that information if you want something like this for your own campaigns. Okay. So this is basically what we used to put in a hard copy folder. Now it's online. Okay. But the other thing that's great here is their social media. The other thing is that I can go in here and all the program files for the campaign are in here. Okay. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to make sure that you can't see hold on. I got to get past the password so that you don't see the password. Okay. Here's where we literally have all of the pitches. Right. So I list all the pitches that we're working on each month. And like I told you, we do a hashtag 21-day PR action guide. I literally change up the focus every month for the clients, right? And you can see that back in June, we're talking about the 5 advantages of living in an agri community. Local agri community supports families during pandemic. Then we move on to different stories. We even had one on sunflowers here. Down here, we had an outdoor school, real estate, so forth. Okay. Now, this month, we're doing Plug into the Planet, NC Agrihood Showcases Green Energy. So one of the things here is connecting home buyers with, was probably this one that scored that. I have to go back and, hold on. Let me look at my notes are down here. So, oh, really? I'm just looking at my team's notes. They have their notes right here, right? So they tell me where we get it. And it came off of a press release. I don't see that very often anymore, the press releases. So let's click on that. So great, very great. So here you go. So this is, we just sent out a press release on what's happening, in the pandemic here. And then they picked it up. Typically what I see, having done this for 31 years, is that the pitches trump the press releases. I'm going to claim that word again, because I have not used that word like that in 4 years, but we're going to start using it like it's meant to be used. So I do see that the press releases are making a little bit of a comeback, and they are wonderful, by the way, for internal communications. You can control what the press release says, and so people like that. What I'd like to do is, now that we've talked a little bit about Rita's question, okay, about what to do beyond your local press, I'd like for us to kind of ponder as a group in our small groups a little bit about, well, if you've only got your local, what else can you do nationally? And thinking about in terms of garden or regional glossy magazines or things of that nature. You don't have to figure out 100 of them, but let's just figure out one. When we come back, we'll actually talk about Marjorie's local cable TV show that she's now trying to publicize, and we'll use that as an example. So Marjorie, ponder it just a bit, and then we'll help you out when we all come back. So you've got about 4 or 5 minutes. Hannah will prompt you all, and click join. And so I had the pleasure of, I think it was Terry, right? 365 days of gratitude. We've got the phone number. So 951, 76. Hey, tell us your name.
It's Linda Berry. It's Linda Berry.
Linda Berry is doing a book called 365 Days of Gratitude, and also coining herself as the Angel Whisperer, which I love, and also comes to the conversation with a strong marketing background. Hannah, since Linda is on via the phone, will you make a note of her phone and then set her up a private conversation with Wasabi Publicity, please? Okay, so I want to talk about Marjorie, and one of the things that Linda and I spoke about is really interesting is who you're targeting, right? So she said, if you're on the East Coast, you should probably try to get people on the West Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you should try to get people on the East Coast. I'm going to really talk about something that's related to that, but yet different. So let's just have a conversation from the whole group. So unmute yourself if you want to answer these questions. Should you target the West Coast if you're on the East Coast? And should you target the East Coast if you're on the West Coast? And should you go, if you've got someplace in Cumberland, Tennessee, should you go region or national? Like, what about all that stuff? Like, to really get clarity about that. Who's got something to share about that? And of course, Marjorie, you can share too, right? Okay, we've got Lynn, Mitch, and then Marjorie.
Okay, I would share that if it's pertinent to the people on the West Coast, that definitely share it. But I would suggest making sure that whatever you're pitching is pertinent to the audience that you're pitching it to.
Thank you, Lynn. And Lynn, did you want to take a quick minute to pitch yourself?
I help authors get their books produced.
Oh,
So,
perfect.
yeah, so that's what I do.
Okay, make sure you put all your stuff in the chat because I like to read that stuff later, and then everybody gets a nice resource. Also,
Thank you.
bottom right-hand corner of your chat box, if you left click on that, you can save it to your computer. Mitch, what did you want to say?
Well, to me, if you are a subject matter expert of any kind, there are people who want to hear from you regardless. And we're in a virtual economy right now. So it really doesn't matter if I am thousands of miles away, but you do something that inspires me, or you do something that I got an aha from, why not? It couldn't hurt you. And chances are they've got a relative close to you. So, it hurts nothing to get publicity everywhere, and you could be surprised where the referral leads.
Hurts nothing. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Okay, Marjorie?
I have had some success with being able to reach out from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I was asked that very question. So what is it that's for us over, here in Washington State? And my answer was the same as what I would say where on the East Coast is there are conservation places and other properties that it's the same principles of finding these places wherever you are. And it's a matter of you got to do the work. But they say, the people we're in a national pandemic. And so there are concerns all throughout the country that people have the same kind of issues that they're dealing with.
Very good. Okay, Marie, you're unmuted. Did you want to contribute something, or are you just listening, sweetie?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yes, it's a long time. I'm sorry I'm getting in late on this. No, I am definitely going to get some help with my my recycling clothes and sell it for new, because I noticed that two big designers, I don't want to call their names, it's ridiculous, getting involved in this sort of thing that I'm doing.
Because it's a good idea.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's the thing. Okay, so we've also got the stealing of ideas. Exactly. Some people call it borrowing, some call it stealing. We can call it partnering, whatever it is, right? I'm always of the belief that if I'm hearing about it or meeting you, then it's something to consider. And I think of partnership before I do competition. And Marie, Wasabi Publicity has had things stolen from us. So I get it, right? When you're like, but let's talk about that, right? Let's, maybe upgrading stealing to sharing of ideas. There's the collective. Did anybody ever read that book? Sort of like a hippie book from way back when, The 100th Monkey Theory.
Yes.
Yes, Rosalind did?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, somebody here has.
Excellent.
So, Rosalind, would you like to share what the 100th Monkey Theory is, or do you want me to do it?
Well, you could do it because you brought it up. It's been a while.
Okay, so the theory is, and it's, just take it for a grain of salt, okay? The theory is that if there's a bunch of monkeys in New Zealand and then they have an aha moment, that just somehow in the ethers, right, monkeys in another part of the world are going to start having that same aha moment. We don't quite know, and the book kind of goes into the theories about why it may happen, but the truth of it is we don't really know, right? We should definitely ask Linda Berry's spirit guides and our guardian angels if they have some insight in that for us, right? Or we had a client recently who decided to not go to mainstream publicity. He is talking to aliens, right? I'm of the belief, I don't say no or laugh at anything until we just actually have a conversation about it, because I don't know. And if I don't know, I may learn something to share with a press person. And there's plenty of alien shows like Coast to Coast that have a massive reach, and they love to have those juicy conversations. So that's why, as an international publicist, I'm open for any conversation. In fact, I had my Seventh-day Adventist gym one time. They're just kind of curious. They're like, "You're up for anything." I'm like, "I am. I really am up for anything." So should you?
I'm Michelle.
Yes.
This is Linda Berry. I actually use that. It's called the critical mass theory. It's actually a scientific theory.
Thank you.
And in the book, it was monkeys in one part of the world started eating bananas a certain way, and then they would find monkeys across the world eating them the same way. So there's a number you reach, and we don't know what that number is. And that could be on the way we all think and feel and believe in something. When we reach that critical mass number, then everybody thinks and feels the same way.
See?
So that's the theory. That's the 100 monkey theory. And that's what that book was written about. It's a very small book, but it's scientifically proven.
And isn't there another book on the same theory called Tipping Point?
Mm-hmm. Malcolm
Yeah.
Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now just notice we've all talked about or been exposed to different books, white papers, research, similar body mass, body of work. So see, Marie, there's all kinds of room for the same conversation, even though the celebrities are doing it. It means that we're just having that conversation. Okay. Marjorie likewise is having this conversation about, walking and easy access to exercise in an easier format than people, which I'm very committed to that. People, as a Spartan racer, triathlon racer, people have this image, especially because we're Americans, better, bigger, faster, stronger, right? And until they're in their, midlife, like I was, you don't realize that the inflammation that happens to the body, right? So Marjorie's out to teach people about easy walks. When you're in your 20s and your 30s, you can do all these exercises easily, but then when you start to have inflammation from, body stuff, environmental stuff, chemical stuff, who knows, right? Then these easier levels of exercise. Then we've also got, I want you just to hang out, Marjorie, on where to promote your show. Because I'm going to get back to what we were talking about with East Coast, West Coast, and what Mitch said was hurts nothing. I'm gonna play devil advocate to what Mitch said, and I know he's gonna love that. I think it might hurt something. We'll talk about that. So let's highlight Diane. Diane's a current client. Diane, unmute yourself. Everybody else can mute yourself for a second. So Diane and her husband, Dr. Alan Lindman, are current clients. There's a few resources as we're talking I want to share with you. So one is my blog, and it just so happens that you're actually talking naturally about what I blogged about this week and is the focus of this call. Okay, so who are you going to call? Actually, what I'm actually talking about in this week's blog is targeting your audience, right? It's a little fun, Ghostbusters.
I love the picture.
Yeah, Aeneas. Well, Hannah, you'll have to let Aeneas know that it's a big win. It's so cute. Here I talked about a really sad thing that happened in my own life with my friend Melissa and her father, a veteran, and she was wanting my help just because her father had recently passed, about honoring her father as a veteran for Veterans Day. And you can watch this News Channel 5. He recently passed of a brain tumor, but the point was we wanted to actually figure out here in Tennessee who to actually target. And you can actually see what I talk about here. We actually talk about Dr. Alan Lindman. I don't know if you know that, Diane.
Yes, I caught that when I read it this morning.
Perfect. These are the questions to ask. So I'm going to lift this, and we're literally asking these questions. What are the 25 press venues that reach the target audience I want to influence? What is the unique story? Right? And then what are the 3 top press contacts to talk to? And then, maybe the local press is sufficient, maybe not, but here's how you figure that out. Okay, I'll put the link there so that you can read that. And again, Storyteller to the Media will get all the blogs. What's your why? And it hurts nothing unless it hurts your why, right? So I have a lot of clients, they get frustrated because they can't keep up with writing requests from the press. Or I literally had a client, there was a massive opportunity. I'm not going to name the client, okay? Massive opportunity on Monday. The deadline was Monday, right? And so most of those national good opportunities have super quick deadlines. And Diane can attest to this because she dances with us sometimes on these, okay? They literally, I got a call when we met on Tuesday, I got admonished. And I was like, okay. I said, now you can say no. You can say no to any media lead. But what was said was, I'm busy right now, but I'll be available at 5. Oh, I'm still busy. It's 5, but I'll be available at 8. And then at 8, I just, can you just stop bugging me? That is not the way to deal with the press. And then we talked about it, and they got the opportunity. They're like, oh, I see. And I said, and maybe what you want to do is not even do those types of short lead turnarounds. And that will be the juicier national, because they've got short deadlines. But maybe that just doesn't work for you. So that's what I mean by hurts nothing. It hurts if you feel like you can't get your other work done, or you can't, right? Like, so this, in this particular, just that quick turnaround for me, for somebody like Katie and me, right? Or Marjorie, maybe even you, Mitch, right? We're used to like turning, like, yeah, I'll get you the deadline in 5 hours. Yeah. And like that enlivens us. But for other people, they're like, oh my God, 5 hours? Are you kidding me? No, I've got all my day planned out and you're not part of it. Diane, so let's lead into you.
Yes.
So when we talk about Dr. Alan Lindman and maternal health, and by the way, if you guys would like to see Dr. Allen's online press kit, here it is. One of the things that we're dealing with is Dr. Allen's second book. And we're going to share less rather than share more, Diane. Okay, because she's keeping a few things under wraps, because she wants to make sure that she has footing on her idea before she goes wide with that idea. Does that make sense? So that's back kind of to Marie's point. Okay. But basically it's maternal health, and Dr. Allen, we brand him as the rural Doc Allen. And so Diane, one of the things that you said, let's get present to the current question you have on target audience. So what do you think is going to be really the best for Alan? Is it going to be regional, local, national?
I think it'll be national. I mean, the people, women, the target audience are women of pregnancy age who may be pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant. Well, that's all over the country. And the idea of the book is pregnant women often aren't told all of the choices that they really have. Their obstetrician or their midwife makes them for them. And so it's an attempt to let women know that what kind of information they really should be able to share in the decisions about their pregnancy.
So this is what we're pitching. Okay, everybody get it? And then you've got an MD, so he's got the credentials, he's got the experience, he's been doing this for umpteen years. I think the one thing that I love to say about him, he has delivered 6,000 babies and achieved a maternal mortality rate of 0 in 40 years of practice. Come on, right? Who wouldn't want to speak to him, right?
By the way, Mama Doc on Twitter sneered at that. Everybody has all obstetricians have that kind of record. So there's a lot of blowback from obstetricians who were working in a corporate community.
Got it. You thank those people for their opinion and you move on. Okay. And the one thing that you never do is give them free PR like you just did.
Well, no, I didn't respond at all.
No, but do you get that? I know that you think that this is a private little group, but it's going on YouTube. So someone else may actually watch it and then they're like, who? I'm not going to mention her name again because she's not paying me. Okay. And
Okay.
she actually sneered somebody who is paying me.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that we don't re-mention a competition, or unless there's something in it for us.
Okay.
And that gets back to the why. And that's like what Mitch is saying, right? So you only know what to say yes to if you've already figured out what to say no to.
Okay. Okay. I hadn't thought about how far this goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I know that everybody says this, but the first place I heard of what I'm about to say next is Weight Watchers. So this is for you, WW. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yeah. That, by the way, was from a Weight Watchers leader in Louisville, Kentucky, who was the chunkiest of three sisters. And when they went, the story I still get like, kind of like, her family would go out for dinner, right, at a fast food restaurant when she was a child, and she was not allowed to have a burger. She was forced to have the fish sandwich from McDonald's when her skinny sisters had a burger. Now, of course, this is probably like in the 70s or the 80s, right? Okay. Think of the time. But then she became a Weight Watchers leader later in life and learned how worse the fish sandwich is nutritionally than the burger.
Right.
I remember, like, I was with my friend Sean, who's now a nurse, and we're like, basically we would go to Weight Watchers just like to be together, and then we would go eat con queso at the area, like after, because right after a Weight Watchers meeting there are no points because it actually absorbs into the previous week's points. This is how we thought. So we would eat a bunch of chips and con queso that night after our Weight Watchers meeting, and then start fresh the next day, every single week for like a year. I kid you not. Kids, right? I was like in my 20s. Anyway, that story is horrific. And so back to the point of actually having knowing what your why is, right? So you're right, Diane. We are on a national focus for Dr. Alan Lindman, right? So we might say no to local stuff because it might not get him anywhere. We'll see, right? When the opportunity comes in, we as a team, we look at that. We definitely want to respond to Dr. Oz's emails, and we have, right? So that gives you an idea of how to really target. And the questions are, like what we talked about with Tennessee, the gardening, like that, like ask yourself, like, who's actually going to drive and buy these tickets or come or be online and be activated with Zoom, right? It's the same type of questions with books, right? So there's a few conversations that we're having with people's new books. It's like, well, who's going to read the book? Lynn, do you have anything to add about that? Like, target audience for book publication is very similar to press outreach. And then I'm just curious what you would have to say to somebody. By the way, if you're watching this, notice a publicist is different than a publisher. Go ahead, Lynn.
Well, I would say you'd have to have your ideal reader identified before you even write your book.
Yes.
And that you need to really be very clear about that, because you can't write a book for everyone. No, that's very general, and it's better to niche it down as much as you can. So that's what
Are there specific questions we can ask? Because there's specific questions like, there's specific questions we have that I've laid out here, right? That you can actually identify the venues. Here, I'm going to put this in the chat. But what about for books? Because we got a few people working on books.
I would say you would ask very similar questions to what you have up there. Who's your ideal reader? Get a picture of who he or she is. What do they look like? Do they go out for fast food? Do they go to a Mexican restaurant? Really build an ideal reader. And you're going to have to, your subject. So you know kind of who's who reads these books that are similar to yours.
Yes.
So I would look for books that are similar to yours, see who's buying them, if you can find that out, find out where these people are hanging out online. You know, look up mysteries, or look up cozy mysteries, or look up, you know, baking mysteries online, and you will find huge communities of people that are reading those kinds of books, or book clubs even, you know, you'll find them.
So everything for PR is the same that Lynn just said, just instead of book communities, you do the audience and who's actually publishing magazines or podcasts or radio shows for that audience. Where are they getting their information? So she said, where are the readers hanging out? I'm saying, where are these people reading, listening, viewing? Okay, so Marjorie back. So Diane,
Yes.
thank you, Lynn. Diane, do you have any other questions? I wanted to just also just kind of do a shout out. In the First Time Parent magazine, because we identified as our audience, first time parents. And so we had inside that blog entry, you'll see a link to the actual, here, I can get it, where Diane and Dr. Alan Lindman wrote, know the differences between a nuanced headache and a dangerous one, right? And so then there is. So we had, this is a photo we had ready, and then they put this in the First Time Parent magazine. I'll put that in the chat.
Very nice.
Anything else from you, Diane, before we go back to Marjorie?
No, I think we do have a pretty good notion of who our audience is. It's a question of where do we find, you know, do we dig? How do we muck around and find where they are?
Yeah.
And a lot of help today on how to do that and where they might
Yeah.
be.
For your PR, you've hired us to actually do that for your PR, but for your new book, what Lynn just said is those are important questions to ask for the new book, and to build communities before the readers, right? Potential readers before the book even comes out, or people who might come into the courses, right? Okay, thanks, Diane. Now, Marjorie, final question as we close out the call. And we did one breakout, you guys. We didn't do any more because we had so much activity with what we're dealing with in this week right here. Who else are you going to target now out of this conversation for your cable TV show?
Just right now, because I was thinking, well, where are these walking communities? And in fact, I keep in the different presentations I've been doing, whether it's this cable TV show is just we'll see what traction that gets. So it's very local right now. We're just doing, I've just got the community cable people helping me with that. But it just occurred to me that I'm always pointing people to rail trails for handicapped accessible trails. And so the Rails to Trails magazine that we already subscribe to would be something for me to approach with a pitch.
Yeah, and if you've got your shows, they can access it beyond a region, then they'll just use that URL, right?
And those are all going on to YouTube. So they're all going to be available on YouTube. I'm putting them into my press kit. So they're there. And I also did just get published in the Boston Globe. So I know. So that has gotten shared quite a bit, and I'm starting to get traction from that. Some that's less appropriate than others. People still expect that I'm this mega athlete because I have written books about walking. They don't really understand that I'm also disabled and have real limits. So,
which I think,
like you said, there's things that I have to say no to.
Well, there's a lot of, there's a trending bit of news right now that this morning that you should hop onto. The Down syndrome gentleman just completed, the very first one completed an Ironman.
Yes.
So it's an opportunity to educate people on, you can be disabled or differently abled and still exercise. But
Absolutely.
he's talking about, he's doing the Ironman, but you're talking about everyday aches and pains, and that, you don't have to go do an Ironman. Here are some easy ways. I want to end the call by letting you guys know that
Thank
next
you.
Friday, Hannah, do we have the registration link for next Friday? She'll put that in the chat room, and you can also find it at storytellertothemedia.com or at PitchRate. What we talked about today was actually the target audiences. I really wanted to focus on who are you going to call, but really the second week of all challenges are pitching yourself in 3 sentences or less, the meat of your pitch, perfect pitch formulas, and subject line secrets, which is in the workbook. Okay. So, and we also have past calls that have literally focused on each of those. I looked this week to see like, well, what was actually missing in the conversation? And this one was the target audience. We needed to do a little more inside the body of calls that are available to people in the pandemic this year. Next month, we're going to do an actual campaign. You're going to see me take somebody through a campaign, and we're going to start doing it 2 Fridays a month. One is going to be questions and answers from the workbook and whatnot. But then the other one, you're going to see me take Clayton, this guy named Clayton, through online press kit development, through pitching, through there. And so he and I are going to be working together on that. And you're going to actually see us do, I think that's going to be really juicy for people to see the nuts and bolts of everything. So make sure that you save your chat, bottom right-hand corner, 3 little dots. And have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Friday. Bye, everybody.